both on the indie and AAA space. But it does certainly bring up an interesting point about the idea of lifestyle games. And this is kind of, I think, the new buzzword for games as a service. Now, we've talked about games as a service extensively on cast and record videos here on the channel, but I want to talk a little bit more today about kind of their impact and whether or not they are hurting the industry or helping it. So, the idea behind a lifestyle game, and again the extension being games as a service, is that you are playing a video game that's meant to be played not only over the course of days or weeks, but months or even years. And again, we see this a lot in the mobile space, and especially when it comes to free-to-play games. Now, one of the things that we're seeing more of is when the AAA market decides to release games with months and even sometimes a year or two of post-release support. Your Call of Duties. Batman Arkham Knight looks like it had a good year or so of DLC after that. And of course, Overwatch, CSGO, Dota, whatever's the next game from Valve, and so on and so forth. But as with the idea behind games as a service, the idea is pretty simple. The more you develop a game, the more people are going to stay around and play it, and ideally give you money. Be it for microtransactions, DLC, or even games that have a subscription model like World of Warcraft, which I think they may be the only ones left, at least on that front. But when it comes to the idea behind a lifestyle game, this is a game that really is built on going all in when it comes to development. You're not going to be spending 2 to 3 months on a game and then saying you're done. These are games that have dedicated teams post-launch to keep this game going, growing, and ideally not crashing when people try to log on to it. And they can be very expensive. I can't even imagine at this point how much World of Warcraft costs to make. Let's see. I don't even think they even released anything. No. Oh wait, there's a rumor in 2013 on Battle.net that it took $63 million to make World of Warcraft. That was vanilla, back, way in the old days of 2004. I can't even imagine how much it costs now. But again, World of Warcraft brings in infinity dollars at this point, so I don't think Blizzard is hurting. But the problem that we see with a lot of games that try to push towards it being a lifestyle is that that cost can easily add up. And if your game isn't making that money back, it's very easy for these games to crash. Like we saw with games like Radical Heights, the slew of Minecraft-related clones, and I'm sure the slew of Battle Royale-related clones are coming. But the pros for a lot of developers certainly outweigh the cons. Because if your game becomes big enough to become a lifestyle game, like we see with Clash of Clans and so on, it can easily keep a studio going for years on end. And I have a video going up, probably by the time people are watching this recorded, it should be already up, to talk about how Fortnite has taken over. And sorry, I'm adjusting my headset, it just feels weird on my head right now. There we go. But the issue or the advantage of a lifestyle game is that it becomes greater than the sum of its parts. It's not just about people just playing this game. They are watching people stream it. They are going to buy probably game-related merchandise. They're going to keep track of every time there's a live stream or any related news. And they will become your biggest supporters easily on that front. And that's great. And it makes it so that these games just continue to grow, and the clout that they represent does not go away. It's why people still play Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and just how much these games become massive brands onto themselves. But the greater discussion to be had when it comes to the idea behind a lifestyle game is that it essentially becomes, is this game taking over for everybody else? And that is a very serious question. And again, it's part of the reason of the article that that Polygon posted that we'll talk about next week, ideally when Rob is back. But as we've seen and as we've talked about many times over, these games become all-encompassing for a lot of people. It's why it's why kind of how Zynga and King blew up in the casual space. Was you have people spending every moment of their free time playing a game like Farmville, or Clash of Clans, or a Candy Crush Saga, or Angry Birds. But as we've talked about before, there is only so much time each day to play a video game. There's still only 24 hours a day when it comes to these kinds of games. So when you have games that are meant to be played for months and years at a time, what else is somebody going to be doing? Now, for core gamers, probably most people watching this video right now, we all have our standbys. I play Binding of Isaac. I know a lot of you play Warframe, and so on and so forth. But for casual people who may only play a few games a year, when I spoke to Elder Josh about this, he said there's a study that said that most people will only buy 4 games a year. And I think I have certainly beaten that mark many times over. But if you're only playing 4 games in the span of a year, and one of those games is Fortnite, then what else are you really going to be spending money on? Because even if you have disposable income, if you have too many games to play, you're still not going to be buying them. And again, when it comes to people who have their bread and butter games, like the people who buy the yearly Call of Duties or Maddens, they're not really going to be spending time playing a game like Asura, or The Binding of Isaac, or pick any indie game that just came out. And again, it raises this question as to, are lifestyle games causing more harm than good in the overall market? And I don't know if we can answer that question right here. Because there's also the other point that people who are going to play Fortnite or play Madden or Call of Duty, are they really the target demographic for a game like The Darkest Dungeon? Or for, let me see, we'll probably go into our Weird Games segment later on, obviously, but all those crazy games that get released on a day-to-day basis on Steam. Let's see, there's a game called Monospark that just came out. Or even something like Life is Strange that just got its second release. Are people really going to be playing those games at the same time they're playing a game like Fortnite or Call of Duty? Again, it's really up in the air regarding that. But the problem is that when more and more developers see these lifestyle games grow and arguably make tons and tons of money, it means they're going to try and follow suit as well. This is where we kind of saw the idea behind games as a service originally go into the AAA space. And why it's not just you release a single player game or a multiplayer game with a few modes, you're releasing a game with months and years of post-release support, or budgeted, I should say, for that kind of post-release support. But what happens when those games fail, and you've dedicated who knows how many hours and money at a time for people to play these games? And again, this can easily lead to studios being closed. We've seen this with stuff like Lawbreakers, and said how they weren't able to pull in any more users. And I think they arguably at one point had 100 people playing the game globally, which is very bad for a competitive online shooter. But I see a few people joining on the chat, but for everyone watching this, either live or recorded right now, what do you make of lifestyle games? Are they the wave of the future, or are they hurting things more than what they're helping? Because as we've talked about before, when it comes to the idea of a lifestyle game or a lifestyle brand, arguably the king of that right now is Blizzard Entertainment. Because Blizzard has certainly made themselves into not just about playing one game, but you are playing everything Blizzard related. And of course, with that said, not only are you playing their games, you are following them on social media, and of course, you are going to their annual event BlizzCon. which BlizzCon, I believe, has wrapped up already for this year. And I'm sure a lot... Oh, wait, here it is. BlizzCon... Oh, it's going to be next month, October. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. They have an esports competition at the end of October. And then the main event happens in November. And I am pretty sure by the time you're watching this, tickets have sold out. Let's see. I'm actually curious. How much does a ticket for BlizzCon cost? Oh, $50 to get in. Oh, they still have tickets open. But of course, by the time you're watching this, it'll probably be closed. But Blizzard has certainly built themselves on being a lifestyle-oriented company. And this is easily seen with how their games are treated, the cross-games promotions, and even their own their own storefront where you can buy, oh my goodness, so many things Blizzard-related. There's shirts, there's tote bags, there's little Funko Pop figurines. There's even statues of popular figures. Oh God. You can get a World of Warcraft Doomhammer premium replica for $400. And Blizzard is definitely looking like they're going to be the next Games Workshop when it comes to all those crazy things you can buy. I am sure everybody here really wants to buy... Oh, you can buy a replica of Genji's sword. A Frozen Throne art print. There's Heroes of the Storm hoodies and pullovers too. Oh my God. But that's the point when it comes to lifestyle games, is that it's not just about the game. It's about this entire brand being built on top of it. Let's see, is there any Fortnite stores right now or stuff like that? I'm sure if there isn't one, it will come soon on that front. But again, lifestyle games are such a lucrative model that for a lot of developers, it becomes kind of their dream. And again, this is the same point that we saw with games as a service originally. That if you want to work on a game that you love and you can spend months and years and still getting paid for it, why should you do it? Or why shouldn't you do it, I should say. And probably one of the older examples, at least right now, would be Payday 2. Which, as of right now, they are at least, let's see, they are now 5 years in development. And I know before anyone mentions this, and if El Gore was on, he probably would have said this in chat already, that we have, of course, Warframe. And Warframe, I think, is around that same time as well. Let's see. Warframe, yep, Warframe came out in 2013. So both games are going on or are going to pass the 5-year mark in terms of continued support. And that success has already brought a lot of accolades and a lot of money for these studios. And if you keep having people come in and they keep paying and supporting your game, why should you move on to another game and fracture that fan base? It's the same reason why we're not seeing any news about a Team Fortress 3. Let's see. And people, of course, I'm just looking at the forums for Payday 2 right now to see if there's any new news about it. And I'm sure we'll be hearing about Payday 3 at some point. And the only real reason why we see studios who have a lifestyle game go further is that they want to basically smooth out any issues. Maybe they want to do an engine change, stuff like that. But yeah, Payday 2 is over, I think, 100 updates at this point. But with that said, when it comes to lifestyle branded games, the risks that are involved have to be pointed out. You are spending and putting a lot in investment into a game that you don't know if people are going to support. It's easy to make a game that you know you're only going to support for a month or just to get bug fixes. But what happens when you budget a year's worth of content and no one decides to play it? This was the issue people ran into with Batman Arkham Origins and how they cut their season pass short just because there wasn't enough interest in the game. And like I said, I am sure there are probably dozens at this point of multiplayer games on Steam right now that have been abandoned due to lack of interest, who of course promised all those months and continued support. I'm trying to remember a few off the top of my head. Let's see, was this the name of the game? No. I was trying to remember a game that I played that had everyone being like very exaggerated, like overweight characters trying to fight each other, and I don't even think it's listed on Steam anymore. And that's another big point. These games just kind of die quietly, and then we never hear from them ever again. But unless anyone has any comments to add, I think we'll move on to our weird games segment. And then we have one more topic I want to talk about